This is feedback for component 3 mock, and this is mock paper 4. If you did this mock paper you were probably sick or otherwise. In reality this paper doesn't exist. You need a doctor's note if you missed the exam, and you needed to be pretty sick indeed. Anyway, here we go. Each diagram shows a section through the epidermis of a leaf. So you need to know where the epidermis is. You drew a leaf section that looked something like that, and the epidermis is on the outside. So we've got a lower epidermis and we've got a upper epidermis, and it's just the epidermis that's shown, so presumably the rest of the leaf, spongy mesophyll cells or whatever, are up here at the top, but they're not shown. Only the epidermis is shown. Leaf A grows in areas of regular rainfall, so it could be Manchester. B, very dry conditions. And two features of leaf B that enable the plant to live in very dry conditions, and it says describe. So here we are just going to describe. I can look down the page, I can see an explain question there. So describe, say what you see in the diagram. That answers the question. Say what you see, and then later on in the explain question, part 2, this is because, this is because, this is why, this is how. So I can see this cuticle here, and it appears to be very thick indeed, whereas a cuticle on the top diagram, you can't really see a cuticle at all. So I'm going to put thick cuticle or thicker cuticle. I don't need to explain anything here because it just says describe. And then what else can I see? I can see here there's just a simple little hole in the rest of the leaf. Here there appears to be some air chambers, and they're labelled air chambers, and they're not on leaf A. So I'm going to put describe these air chambers, or the fact that the stomata or the stoma is actually right at the bottom, so air would have to go in there, or water if it was coming out the other way. So if I did that in blue, water would have to go all the way through these air chambers. So the stomata or the stoma could be described as sunken. By the way, you can interchange stoma and stomata. Stoma is one, stomata is plural, but they'll never worry too much about that. And now we can explain each of these features. We couldn't have any other features there because there isn't any shown, and it wanted those that are shown. So I'm going to go for a thicker cuticle, and the thicker cuticle stops as much water getting through out of the leaf sort of by evaporation. Some water would get through this top leaf straight from the cell outwards, whereas here we've got a thick cuticle, so it reduces water loss. Through the epidermis. So water can't get through this kind of waxy cuticle. And what about these air chambers with the sunken stoma at the end? Well, we get water vapour, if it's water vapour that's moving, accumulating here, and that reduces the gradient for the diffusion of water. or the water potential gradient. So sunken stomata, trap water vapour. We'll give you the mark for that, but the full explanation would be which reduces the diffusion gradient. Part 3. Describe and explain one other feature in bold. So one thing that's not shown on that, but could be present on another type of plant. The one that you know about most obviously might be Erica. That's kind of that rolled kind of shaped leaf, that sort of shape with kind of hairs going in like that. Rubbish diagram, and then it's got these sunken stomata actually in there as well, and a thicker cuticle on top. So one other feature here could be, you could describe these hairs, that sort of thing we could describe, this kind of curled shape. Those are the most obvious things that you'd probably talk about. So let's just go curled leaf, and we need, again, it says describe. This time it's and explain. So we've described the curled leaf, now we explain why that's useful. It's the same reason as down here, the trapping of water vapour. So traps water vapour. We could have these hairs, so I'm just going to write hairs, and again same reason there. Traps water vapour. And other things that we could possibly say, things like the stoma or stomata only open at night, that sort of thing. But we could say that like pine trees, Christmas trees, the leaves are actually just reduced to kind of needles rather than actual full leaves. But those are the two features I'd probably think of first. But you want to state the general name given to plants that are adapted to living in dry conditions. These are xerophyte plants, and we've got hydrophytes in kind of wet conditions, mesophytes in the middle, and xerophytes in dry conditions. And two environmental factors that can decrease the rate of transpiration. That's in bold, so we don't want you to say the wrong way around. There's kind of four factors that can influence the rate of transpiration. Things like temperature, humidity, wind speed, and the light levels. We only need two of those. I've now written four, but we'd only need two of those. And it says decrease. So temperature won't do anything. We need to go, well, is it high temperature or is it low temperature that we want? So we want low temperature. And it says describe, so we don't need to explain. We don't need to go into less kinetic energy, less movement molecules and blah blah blah. It just says describe. And humidity, well, this will be high humidity. If we were saying wind speed, that would be low wind speed. And light would go low light or darkness. It would affect the opening of the stomata. That's 9 marks.